Dow 19,023.87 to be exact, up 67 points on growing optimism that this country is headed for even better times here, and that some of the signals we're getting out of President-elect Trump could indicate some economic robust activity. Of course, it's always in the details, but one to watch as well is what was going on with the Russell 2000, a good barometer, for example, of smaller company strength. That, as with its advance today, up 11% now, just since the election. Now, keep in mind, this is an index populated by small company stocks, and the betting seems to be whatever vagaries happen in a Trump administration, whether there's a trade war that has started. That is some of the cynical view out there. Not everyone necessarily buys that these guys will benefit regardless. And they have had a smart uprun here. And now the Dow, the highest level it has ever been. And Dow 20,000 not too far away. That would be about a 5% leap or so now at these levels. All right, so let's get a gauge of this with market watchers Brian Renberg and Larry Levin and Larry Glazer. Larry Glazer, ended with you, begin with you. What do you make of what these markets seem to be saying, at least since the election?
Neil, who would have thought the Dow would be at 19,000 right now, making new highs after the dismal start we saw at the beginning of this year? And you can only chalk it up to optimism about pro-growth economic policies. Look, people are hopeful of lower taxes, of less regulation, of lower health care costs, but most importantly, more growth in the economy. And that's what's getting priced into stocks. But again, although optimism is high, expectations are also getting very high at these levels right now. And we know change comes very slowly in Washington. So we want to temper that expectation, recognize that as money goes from cash and bonds into stocks, recognize that, look, we start with a very high national debt to make all these changes, and we've got a debt that's gone up $9 trillion under the Obama administration. Even a Republican administration may have a tough time passing many of the policies. So we need to be cautious at these levels, recognize that we're optimistic, but it's going to be some time before all these things happen.
Larry, what do you make of this and whether it could continue? Because offsetting this are concerns about rising interest rates. Now, they're rising for all the right reasons, we would think, improved economic activity, but the fear seems to be that if they keep rising, it could put, obviously, a damper on U.S. profits abroad, priced in dollars and all that. You know the drill, and people are worried about that. Do you think that's a justifiable fear that kind of reigns on this party, or what?
Well, I think the only way that interest rates are going to keep rising and rise consistently is if the economy improves. And obviously, Trump's got a lot of work to do. Larry said it himself that, there is a decent amount of work to do. So we have to be a little bit patient. But with that being said, if we see that, if over the next 3 to 6 months we see the right people getting into office and we see them doing the right things, then I think that will keep moving the market higher as well as moving interest rates higher. So I think those interest rate moves, those will bring pullbacks in the market, and those will be good opportunities for your viewers, people down here, to be able to step in on those pullbacks. But with that being said, I think the market will be able to recover and keep moving higher, even with a higher moving interest rates.
All right, Brian, one of the things we've noticed is that this market has had an incredible run-up even before the election. A lot of Democratic friends of mine say, well, that happened under a Democratic president. The Dow essentially tripling, a lot of other averages soaring. That's going to be a hard act for Donald Trump to top, even though at least so much of the activity in the last couple of weeks could in large part owe to Donald Trump's election. But what do you make of that this is going to be hard to keep going just by the sheer force?
Well, I think there's clearly something new going on here. This isn't just something that Donald Trump inherited. The market is looking at what he's saying. And by the way, the important thing here to notice is he's staying on message. Every time he talks, he's talking about growth. He's talking about taxes, energy, finances. He's talking about regulatory reform. This is what's so important for him. If he stays on message, this can continue. If he gets off message, if he starts talking about trade issues that the markets are worried about, big tariffs, you're going to see problems. But he can keep this going if he stays on message. All
right, we'll see about Larry. One of the things about trade thing is that small stocks benefit in that environment because they don't get caught up in the trade imbroglios. They don't get caught up in all of this stuff, so they might be a place for money. They've been overlooked. Maybe not so much now. What do you think?
I think we're really talking about
Larry Glazer first, and then Larry, I'll get to you. I keep forgetting I have two Larrys. I apologize.
profound change in the economy. That's really what we're talking about. And we see the leadership of the stock market being small cap. I think that's really an optimistic sign because this is looking like the small business president. That's something, those are the businesses that have been left behind in this economy by the last several administrations. So we're so excited to see the leadership and the optimism coming out of Main Street. Money that's going to be spent in retail and restaurants right on Main Street, not on Wall Street. So I think that is a big deal. And international challenges affect big companies. They don't necessarily affect small companies who do their business right here. And growth comes from within. If the consumer does well, that's 2/3 of the U.S. economy. That will help small businesses, and that's why they're doing so well right now.
Larry, I mean, there is a focus on the cabinet, too, of who Donald Trump picks around him. We're going to get to that in a second. We're going to have Ben Carson here who could play a role in that. Also hear from Carl Icahn, who has poo-pooed a direct role in that, but will be an advisor. How important is that to you?
It's pretty important. Obviously, we want to see, right, you know, Larry said it himself. He said that we really have a situation where we finally have a small business president. If you talked about any entrepreneurs over the last 8 years, nobody would tell you that they were happy with what the cabinet was doing, what the president was doing. Really, you couldn't find an entrepreneur, a small business person out there that really was happy. So we're really excited about Donald Trump right now and really excited that we'll see a real situation where it's going to be good for the small business. And if he picks the right cabinet, I think that'll make entrepreneurs out there and small business owners even want to take more risk because they feel like it's going in the right direction.
All right, guys, thank you very, very much.